Beautiful places and the weather. Landmarks postcards from Australia and Canada next Tuesday at 12:10 here on BBC Two.
BBC Two, come home to your garden.
Now on BBC Two, Working Lunch with Adrian Childs.
Good afternoon, welcome to Working Lunch. I'm Adrian Childs. You're driving along, you're minding your own business, then all of a sudden a mighty shock.
When nothing triggers an airbag to go off and it just goes off for no apparent reason, it is an extremely disconcerting experience, and I wouldn't be surprised that very serious consequences could result.
Railtrack shares are at an all-time low, and Woolworths and Superdrug are to fly the kingfisher nest. We've got all the market news. And how reliable is your second-hand car?
Mazda and Mercedes come out top in a new survey, with Rover and Vauxhall trailing behind. Plus, just how useful is it to take out a warranty on your used car?
And Rob's got his skates on in Redditch.
Well, the politicians are caught in the youth votes. Have they got the policies to score, or are they missing the target?
Airbags are in the car to protect you, of course, but what happens if they suddenly go off when they're not apparently needed? You haven't had any kind of collision or anything. Two Working Lunch viewers have had this happen and have asked us to investigate. We're happy to do so. Here's Simon.
December the 20th last year, the driver brought this car around the curve behind me, and the front passenger side wheel, the evidence suggests, hit a pothole. The tyre then burst, but what really shocked and surprised the driver was that his side airbag, so on the far side of the car, the airbag then activated.
My son was driving the car home along a country road, and there was a loud bang, and it was quite traumatic for him. There was damage, as you can see, to the seat, because the airbag actually comes out of the seat, and it comes out with a bang because there's an explosive charge in there.
That's the seat then?
That's the seat. And also the seat belt itself jammed in such a way that, as I understood it, only Volkswagen could repair it.
And how much would all that cost to repair?
They've given me an estimate of £1,078.
Volkswagen refused to pay for the repairs, even though it was a new car, saying the repairs are not covered under warranty as the accident was caused by external influences and not a manufacturing defect. So Vic Tolchard tried to claim against his insurers.
They took the car to Coventry to have it repaired, but once their engineer had seen it and found no damage to the car, because my son had managed to bring the car to a halt without hitting anything, as soon as their engineer saw that, they decided there was no claim, there was no accident. So the insurers refused to pay as well.
So here we have the bizarre situation of a car which was comprehensively insured and still under its manufacturer's warranty, and yet neither the insurer nor the manufacturer will accept responsibility for the damage caused by the airbag. Wren Motor, the insurer, told Vic the vehicle airbag should not deploy under the circumstances described in the claim form, and therefore it must be considered a fault with the vehicle and not covered under the policy. But would all insurers wash their hands of such a situation?
Well, it's normal practice for a fully comprehensive insurance policy to cover damage caused to the vehicle itself. And in circumstances like this, unless there's a specific exclusion clause on the policy which might exclude damage as a result of a design or installation fault, then most policies we would expect to deal with the claim.
The other case involves this sparkling new Audi owned by Chris Lacey.
As I was turning around a long sweeping bend, an enormous explosion, what I could describe as an explosion, went off on the side of the car. I looked down, airbag had gone off and subsequently deflated very rapidly. It wasn't actually until I took my jacket off that I realised that I'd had an injury to my arm, which had really, caused a gaping wound and blood, which actually caused me to visit a doctor.
When Audi examined the car, they found a mark underneath, which they thought was the result of a knock from a foreign body. So the company told us about the car. Our experts are confident that its safety systems operated entirely legitimately in deploying the airbag when sensors detected lateral movement following an impact to the vehicle's underside.
They found what I would describe as a graze to the underside of the floor pan, to the underside of the car, which they said was consistent with the kind of impact damage that could cause an airbag to deploy. I obviously disagree.
So much so that Chris refused to put a claim into his insurers, but he did get his insurance company to inspect the car, and he's adamant that the scrape or graze in question was made by an uneven road months earlier. The experts say these alarming cases shouldn't put us off airbags.
They're certainly comparatively very reliable. That, it's not sort of a percentage which will go off. It's a minute fraction of a percent. It's a few per annum out of 10 million which might be going off. So it is a very low incidence, really. But when it does happen, of course, it is quite a shock.
There's no doubt that airbags save lives, but when Vic and Chris's inflated, it left their confidence in their cars severely deflated.
Railtrack share price has plunged to an all-time low this morning after reports that an investment bank valued the company at just 58p a share. The bank said the future of the company would depend on large injections of public money. From Barclays Stockbrokers, Benedict Lawson is here. We'll have a look at the current share price in just a second. Let's have a look at the graph here. And down she goes. What's going on here then?
Well, there's a lot of worry, certainly after the very high-profile Hatfield crash and other near misses on the rail network. The amount of money that is going to be required to get the rail network back to safe and speed. And bear in mind, of course, that Railtrack derives its money from the train operators. Now, they're not going to be too chuffed with paying huge amounts to Railtrack if the tracks aren't working properly. But the big issue at the moment is it has become very apparent that Railtrack needs a substantial cash injection. And in fact, they've had £1.5 billion pounds come forward, which they weren't supposed to get for several years, and it looks like that even that may not be enough. So the market is very concerned that that the money's just not going to be there.
Okay, I think most investors or speculators that I know will see this graph and it will go down. And you think, oh, it can't go any further. I mean, we can see that the bottom axis there is at 400. It doesn't go down to naught, which is in fact where all share prices actually end, doesn't it?
The ultimate support level, as somebody called it, when a company goes bust. There's no reason why this share price can't go lower. Certainly, given the amount of uncertainty, who's to say that it won't go to £3, £2.50 or wherever?
Right. Logic that I think most people would apply, including myself, to this. It's gone down that far. It can't go much further. The government is going to have to put a load of money in. When it puts that money in, up the share price will go. Simple.
Well, the government certainly looks like they may have to, or there's a very compelling case for the government to put more money in, because at the end of the day we do need a rail network. That said, however, you do have a situation that Railtrack is a regulated business. It has two sides of its business, if you like. It has the regulated asset base, as it's called, and it's got the non-regulated businesses. Well, of course, the regulator can't affect the non-regulated businesses, but when a regulatory review comes round and the government has thrown lots of money at it, it's going to be tougher on the regulated asset base, and it will say, no, you can't make 7% this year. We're only going to allow you to make 3%. Of course, that doesn't do the share.
And of all the constituencies the next government has got to please, Railtrack shareholders are about bottom of the list. There's not a huge amount of public sympathy for them, or certainly that, or in government.
Well, Given the bad press that the windfalls that some of these people have had, it doesn't look likely.
Okay, great. Talk to you again shortly. The other business news. Low interest rates are continuing to fuel the housing market, so says the Halifax. It wouldn't do, it's an estate agent, of course. It says prices in May rose by 7.3% year on year. That's the highest growth rate for 9 months, and up 1.5% on the month before. The Halifax says recent cuts in mortgage interest rates, low unemployment and rising earnings have caused prices to rise more quickly this year. The European Commission is holding a 3-day public hearing on the future of the common fisheries policy, which it says needs to change. Topics on the table will be the threat to major fish stocks and the decline of Europe's trawler fleet, which the Fisheries Commissioner says is now still 40% too big for the job. The Commission's published a discussion document suggesting more localised policies for conserving stock. Something needs to be done. Last month, Sunshine helped bring up a 9.3% increase in shop sales, the best May that shops have had for 5 years. It's according to the Shops Group, the British Retail Consortium. Excuse me. Sales of meat for barbecue surged, as did beer, wine and salads. Low-fat and diet food also did well as people took their T-shirts off in the sun, realised just how fat they'd got over the winter. Also, clothing sales were strong, with the last week in May seeing record sales of women's sandals. London, though, was hit by the impact of foot and mouth, in so much as overseas tourists were frightened off, so sales of souvenirs and quality china were badly affected. And Friday is the best day of the week to sack someone or be sacked. That's according to research by scientists at the George Washington University in the States. Apparently at the start of the week we're better at analytical tasks like budgeting, but we're no good at handling conflict, whereas by the end of the week we're more creative and better at communication and can better handle sensitive situations. Here's a psychologist's view on all this.
I think it means that by the end of the week, what you're doing is you're quite relaxed, your weekend's coming on, you've dealt with all of the tasks you had to do, your work-related tasks. It provides you with opportunity to kind of reflect on some of the creative and more innovative elements and maybe the people elements of your job later in the week. I think in terms of the firing bit that they found, I think people also by Friday are a bit worried about the conflict that it will generate, obviously, if you're the manager doing it. And it would be better it was done on the Friday anyway, so the person goes home back into their social support system and you don't have to confront them the next day. So there's an element not of right-left brain, but an element of good interpersonal skills.
Yeah. But there's an element of cowardice, if you ask me, because you sack somebody on a Friday, you haven't got to come in and see them the following morning.
Absolutely. Absolutely, particularly in the United States, when you're fired, you usually go almost immediately. There's no 2-3 month period. So it is an element of trying to escape from the negative act that you've had to engage in on the Friday.
I suspect God made us like this, so we have this natural rhythm from Monday to Friday. And I wonder if there's any dangers inherent as we go towards this 7-day week, to use that terrible expression, this 24/7 working society. Do you think there are dangers in that?
Well, I think there are dangers. Obviously, the dangers are we're going to burn ourselves out. In the UK already, we have the longest working hours in Europe and the second longest working hours in the developed world behind the United States. I think what it's going to push out is the creative, innovative part of us, the reflective time, the time to establish relationships and team build in the workplace. That's what's going to go. And by the way, it's not going to go. In my view, it already has gone in many work environments.
During this interview on a Tuesday lunchtime, have you been using the left-hand side or the right side of your brain?
Well, I'm mid-brain just at the moment. I think I've used a little bit of both. Okay. I hope I have anyway.
Right, you're mid-brain, I'm no brain. Between us, we got somewhere, though. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Sure, you take care, Adrian.
Bye. Professor Carey Cooper. The market news now, Adam. He's never away again, is he? Dear, oh dear. Who's here? Much more hair, much better looking. Benedict Lawson, Barclays Stockbrokers. How you doing? Let's have a look at the FTSE. Where are we at today? Good day to be out the office. Not a lot going on. Anything interesting on there at all? Anything you want to say about the States, for example, the Dow?
Well, look, we've got the NAPM, which is a fancy way of saying the National Association of Purchasing Managers survey out this afternoon. Those are the guys who are going out and buying goods, and that's an indication about whether or not people manufacturers are happy to
How
make,
confident they
how
feel.
confident they feel. So that's going to be interesting.
That might move the things.
Overnight, not on your board, the Nikkei, the Japanese index, that the volumes of trading on the market was at an 11-year low yesterday. So we really are in a bit of a summer sag as it happens.
Okay, here's the general picture. Anything you'd pick out on there?
I think Vodafone, interesting there. We've got the shares have sold off quite substantially in the recent week or so on the back of the feeling that there's going to be about 6% of the stock that's coming back into the market that's being sold by the likes of KPN and others who were given Vodafone shares in exchange for a business. So that, I think Vodafone, whether whether later in the month, is probably worth having a look at. Okay. Certainly Marconi, a lot of the run-up we had yesterday in the takeover idea, well, some of that's been given up, but really a very light day.
Right. Okay. Moving on, we mentioned Railtrack have been downgraded, down a whacking 15%, as we said. We were talking earlier, Benedict, I thought you made an interesting point up in the office, which I just want to relay. Let's have a look at the Railtrack share price. The point you were making is that these graphs actually tell a bit of a lie, in so much as the fall from 1,200 to 1,000 over here looks exactly the same as the fall from 600 to 400. In fact, if you've got your money in that share, it's much worse the lower down the graph you get, isn't it? Yeah. So if you had £1,000 invested at 1,200, when the share price was 1,200, and it fell to 1,000, you'd end up with how much?
Well, you'd be down about, whatever, 17% is.
OK, so you take the equivalent down here, 600 to 400, that's a 33% fall.
Yeah. So these charts, and again it's the same on the other side, these charts do not reflect the fact that as the share price gets lower, any movements are, in percentage terms, far greater.
OK, let's have a look at Kingfisher shares. Now, they've down marginally 1% at the moment. What's the story there today?
Well, Kingfisher have been saying for a long time they're looking to restructure. They've been looking to sell what they call their general merchandising division. That's the division that owns Woolworths and Superdrug, particularly. They said they've been in talks, particularly with a Dutch business called Kruivert, which would be looking to buy Superdrug, but they announced this morning that all those talks are off and that they're looking to have a general flotation of these businesses. Now that is a lot more expensive, of course. If you can do a trade sale, then that's a behind the doors sale, but in many respects a bit more expensive for them.
Let's have a look at Kingfisher's share price. There it is. So it depends on how much it gets for these. It depends on how much it gets for these for the things it's flogging off.
That's
the
right.
Woolworths and Superdrug.
But they're also saying they're looking to sell the retail, the property base, which is worth about 600 million, and possibly pay down some of their debt with that.
Okay. GUS. We've seen slightly better profits figures. Is it from them?
Yeah, good set of results from Gus. Not only do they have the Argos side, which is the retailing side, they also have Experian, which is a business management business. That is very much, has a lot of exposure to the US. But they said the second half of the year was better than the first half, so possibly promising. Okay, and just one more on there that seems to have shot up. Can I have the? Can I see the numbers there, please? Can I see them? There we go. Yeah, up 9%. Just tell us what's moving JJB. Yeah, JJB Sports came up with a 7% like-for-like profits growth in the first quarter, so good set of results from them.
Okay, Benedict, nice to see you. Thanks very much indeed. Benedict Lawson from Barclays Stockbrokers. Here's today's tourist rates. And by way of apology for getting the name of the Hungarian currency wrong yesterday, some more Hungarian fiddle music to accompany today's selection. I'm getting quite fond of that. Spanish pesetas, 269 you'll get to the pound. 10 francs 61, 10 French francs 61 that is, 554 Greece drachma, 3,157 Italian lira, $1.38 and 421 nearly Hungarian forint, not florint. For our Hungarian viewers, we apologise. All those details are on CFAX page 247. The family has been a buzzword throughout the last Parliament, but what do people think the parties are offering on that score in the election? Over to Rob in Redditch.
Well, I reckon the politicians are missing out on a great photo opportunity here. All these little kids running around, lots of babies just waiting to be kissed. And what better place to sort of take the pulse of the family view of the election? We're at the Windmill Parents and Toddlers group here in Redditch, and we're going to find out a bit more about how they view it and what their concerns are. Now, Julie, what are you looking at then? What bothers you at the moment?
Education, taxes, you know, petrol tax, income tax. I mean, all the changes that they've made, it's really affecting my family.
And what about the issues with childcare and things like that?
Well, I mean, I'm looking to get back to work eventually, and I need to know that there's going to be something that I can afford, you know, something that's going to be adequate and affordable, and at the moment there isn't.
Do you think any of the changes that were brought in are going to help, you know, the maternity leave and maternity pay?
Well, maternity and paternity, they don't affect me because I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so no, not really.
And how about you, Margaret? What are your concerns?
Education and the health service, really. And I suppose taxes, because we're only really living on one main income, so, you know, you just wonder if you get taxed more or even less, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of difference at the moment.
When you say education and health service, what do you mean? What are you worried about?
Well, they keep saying, you know, they keep changing the education system, so you can't seem to keep on top of it. I've got a daughter who's coming up just about GCSEs, but now they've changed the A levels, so they're doing these AS levels, and that seems to put a lot of pressure on children. And then I've got a little one who's going in. It always seems like, you know, there's shortage of teachers. So, and there's been big changes in Redditch with the education, so that's always a worry.
Okay, and Jenny, I gather it's education for you as well?
Definitely. I've only got one little girl, so I'm a bit confused as to where the best schools are. I need to know where to send my child to, how many kids in a class. It's all very, very concerning at the moment. I just don't know where it's going. I think the country's being bled dry at the moment, quite frankly.
So what are you looking for the politicians to be doing then to win your vote?
I'm never going to get complete honesty, but I believe that the middle people are being taxed to the hilt. I don't work, so we have the same one earner, and quite frankly I think I'm going to have to go back to work where I feel that I should be at home with my child to give her all the best possible start in life, possibly having a second, and I probably won't be able to afford to do that, even though my husband's on quite a good salary, because basically the car taxing and the company car's hardly going to be worth any benefit to us at all, and the country's just been bled dry. I just don't believe in the policies at the moment.
What about you, Tracy? Where do you come in on this?
Definitely education. Definitely. It's falling apart. I mean, the teachers at the moment, they're like elastic band. They can only stretch so far, then they snap. There's such a wide range of abilities in state schools. They can't cope. They can't. No child can have everything that it needs in the state system without another child losing out or suffering.
When you say education, do you think any of the politicians that you've heard so far have got the answers to solve the problem?
No, I don't think the teachers get enough support. There's no backup for them. They have some completely wild children to deal with, and now the policy is not to expel children because it doesn't look good. So what sort of control have they got in the classroom? The special needs children, I don't think their needs are being met. Unless they actually get statemented now, they're able to be quietly just dealt with. They're not getting what they need. So much so that we've actually decided to opt out of the state system at great financial cost. After our school fees, we will be living on less than a family who are living on family credit. But we're willing to do that because we do not believe in the state system anymore. And our children, we do not want them to suffer long term.
Okay, Tracy, thanks very much. Well, one theme emerging then, it's to paraphrase the Prime Minister in the last election, it's education, education, education and education. Well, that's it from Redditch for the time being, but I'll be back in a short while looking at another bunch of electors. This is the first-time voters.
That was Rob Pitton. We had a survey in today, the most reliable second-hand cars, Sarah Boxall's here. So who's won, who's lost?
Well, it looks like the Japanese cars got 4 of the top 5 places. If we look at the survey by What Car and Warranty Direct, we can see that 1 was Mazda, 2 Mercedes-Benz, the only European player there, 3 Toyota, 4 Honda and 5 Mitsubishi, although we don't have to feel too bad because we know that Nissan and Toyota and Honda make their cars in Britain.
Or assemble them anyway.
Yeah.
So, what about how much it costs to repair the cars? That's an issue here as well.
Well, first of all, let's have a very quick look as well at who came last.
Okay.
They looked at 22 cars, and Alfa Romeo, you will see there, came last, and not too great a performance there by Rover and Vauxhall. But yes, if we turn to costs, we can see that Fiat, it was our Italian model, came out first, and the cost of repairs for one of those for a visit is normally £191. The expensive ones to repair, if you've got a second-hand Land Rover or Subaru, they will cost you the most amount of money.
Okay. Are warranties worth bothering about with used cars then? Is it worth... It's an insurance policy basically, isn't it?
It is an insurance policy, and it is not a replacement for getting the car checked out well in the first place. You should always check what kind of car you're buying, what's wrong with it, what its service history is first. But we spoke to Steve Fowler from What Car earlier, and he said that warranties are definitely worth looking at.
Warranties are definitely worth having, because if a car goes wrong, you're going to be landed with a very expensive bill, potentially, as our survey has shown. But warranties do differ, and you have to look very carefully into the small print to find out what the exclusions are and if there's any monetary limit on the number of claims you can make. So do investigate them, do check them out, and do ask a lot of questions about the warranty if you're unsure.
But also you need to make sure that you read the small print very carefully when you go to buy it. Even if a dealer offers you a warranty, take it away, read it, see what it's included. Check the exclusions, that's the most important thing. See if wear and tear is included. See if they put servicing conditions on it and tell you whether what garage you've got to have it serviced in. So it's very important to look at the small print, and you can buy them off the shelf now as well.
Thanks very much. If your warranty turns out to be not worth the paper it's written on, then you can always call us. Don't forget, do let us know. Address later. Back to Rob in Redditch. Checking out the youth vote.
What's your name?
Ben.
Ben? Hello, Ben. You all right? Well, it could be a while before Ben here gets to vote, but we've been taking a look... Oh, hold on a second. Quite right, I'm not sure which candidate she's endorsing, but we've been taking a look at a bunch of first-time voters, and yesterday I went along to join in with one of their favourite games. It's called skater hockey, and Redditch is one of the best teams in the country. It's fast, furious, and definitely a game for the young, as I proved when I joined the junior team's practice session. At least I scored though. Mind you, I think he was letting them in. The Redditch Rockets junior team has 3 international players. It's been going for 5 years and finished 9th in the league. The players' ages range from 15 to 19, so many of them will be voting for the first time in this election, although one of their main preoccupations is finding sponsors to cover the costs of their expensive kit. Well, that's given me a newfound respect for this lot. Let's see if they've got a newfound respect for politicians, because they're all going to be voting for the first time. So, Stuart, what's interesting you in this election?
To make sure we save the pound and not let Labour get another second term in office.
That's a big worry for you, is it?
Yeah, definitely. Losing sovereignty to the EU, definitely a big concern for me. Definitely want to save the pound.
What about, you know, people talk about a lot of the younger generation don't actually want to vote. I mean, are most of you going to be voting?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you're 15, so you won't be voting, no. How about you, Ben? What's interesting you?
Well, one of the things at the moment, as I'm going to uni next year, is tuition fees. So I'll be hoping that whoever's in power will be abolishing them. So I don't think it's right to make people pay for their education.
People have said that a lot of people are getting put off going to university. Is that something that you reckon could happen?
I think it could possibly. It hasn't happened with me, but I think it could be an issue for some people because some of the costs are quite high and not everyone can afford to do it.
So anyone else got anything that they really want to get off their chests about politicians?
No, not really. Definitely want them to stay, go to uni, tuition fees and keep the pound.
Why do you think it's important, the pound, then?
Yeah, it's because it's like part of a heritage, like we used to own half of the world and then we don't want to lose that, we don't want to be answering to anyone else but ourselves.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're a younger generation, you might think that perhaps you're not so bothered.
No, not at all, you know what I mean, what happened in the past is what made us what we are today, so better to keep the way we are.
So Spadger, you're the girlie over there, are you going to be voting?
Yeah, we're very conservatives.
So you're all voting for Conservatives, is this a team thing?
Yeah, like Johnny.
I'd like to point out, I'm not too sure who I'll be voting for at the moment, but I haven't decided yet, as of yet.
What are you looking at when you decide how to vote?
Low taxation, keeping the pound.
Why is low taxation a problem at your age?
Taking all your Tesco's money, aren't they?
Yeah, taking all my Tesco's money at the moment. All my part-time wage is going down the tube.
So we better keep this balanced. Did someone, was it you, Ben, said that you're going to be voting Labour?
I will be, yeah.
So why is that then?
Mainly family influence, because I don't really feel, well, a lot of people my age don't really know enough about politics to make an informed decision. But so obviously family influences will play a big part in it, as with me. So I'll be voting Labour because both my mum and dad vote Labour.
Anyone looking at the Liberal Democrats?
were they?
So not a natural constituency, obviously, for the Liberal Democrats. Well, I'll let you lot get on with your game, but I think if it's all right with you, I'll sit this one out.
Wise decision. Continuing issues this week. The subject is mortgages. However daft your question about mortgages, whatever you feel you really should understand but you don't, do give us a call. 020 8740 4724. 8740 4724. Leave your question on our very expensive answering machine. Write to us at Working Lunch, room 4220, BBC TV Centre, London W12 7RJ. Email working.lunch@bbc.co.uk. CFAX page, BBC 238, or the contact details on there. Main market story today, Railtrack share price fallen nearly 15% because one investment bank said it was only worth 58p. Join us again tomorrow. Bye for now.
Lunchtime CBBC.